Rabba and Rava, whether you say b'fan nechtam because of lefi she'ein b'kiyin l'shma, or lefi she'ein eidem mitzuyin l'kaimai. The Gemara asks on Rabba from a Mishnah later on Daf Tes. The Mishnah says, "Hamevi get Medina Sayam ve'eino yochoi loymar b'fan nechtam." He can't say b'fan nechtam. Yiskayim b'choy samav. You need kiyum. So, by the way, just push up shot in the Mishnah before we go on. The Mishnah says, "Ve'enu yochel loyim b'fan nechtam." The Mishnah says, "Yesh olav edim yiskayim b'choy samav." What does it mean? Yesh olav edim. Olav means what? Olav means if the get has edim. Of course not. The get definitely has edim. It says ve'enu yochel loyim b'fan nechtam, right? You can't say b'fan nechtam. So we know that the get has edim. It doesn't say yesh olav edim if the get has edim. That's not the issue. Yesh olav edim means if the chasimas have eidei kiyum, he's kaim b'choy samav. That's Pashup Shan in the Mishnah. Now the Gemara continues. The Gemara says v'avinen ba. My ve'eno yochel loymar. What does it mean ve'eno yochel loymar? Ilay mecheresh. If you're going to say we're dealing with a cheresh barisuya gita who? Cheresh is not a barisuya gita. You can't make him a shliach. Right? So what is it? So what does it mean that he gave it to her? Just he couldn't say before a nechtam. He couldn't give it to her. There's no shlichus for a cheresh. Cheresh is not a bar shlichus. So what does it mean ve'eno yochel? The Gemara says it means that he was a pikeach when he gave it to her, pikeach v'nescharish, and right afterwards he was nescharish. What does it mean right afterwards? Don't you have to say b'fan nechtam b'shas the nesina? So Tosfos and Daf Hamad Bey said, no. From this Gemara you see that you could say it even teich k'nei dibur of the nesina. So meaning he gave her the get, and teich k'nei dibur of the nesina he should have been saying b'fan nechtam in order for her to have a valid gerushin, but he became a cheresh. Some far-fetched case, but that's the Gemara says. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a shliach that gave the get while he was a pikeach, and toich kedei dibur of the nesina, he was nescharish. So now he can't say that's ve'eno yochei leimar. That's the case of the Mishnah. That's clear. Okay. The Rashba asks a very strong question. We're asking a kasha on Rabbah over here, right? What's the kasha on Rabbah? How could the Mishnah say that if he's an eino yochel loyim b'fan nechtam yiskayim b'choy samav? It sounds like if you have kiyum on the chasimas, that she's good to go. But what's kiyum going to help us? Kiyum is not going to tell us whether it was written l'shma. According to Rabbah, you need to know whether the get was written l'shma. So what's the eights of the Mishnah? Yiskayim b'choy samav. What's Yiskayim b'choy samav going to help you? You have to know that it was written l'shma. Where in the kiyum is it going to be nizgala? Is it going to be confirmed that this get was written l'shma? That's the kasha on Rabbah. So the Rashba asks, so why are we getting involved in technicalities? V'havinen ba, we're bringing the Mishnah of Daf Tes and the Gemara as well. The Gemara asks on that Mishnah, what's the case of Eino Yochel Loymar? Is it Cheresh? Can't be Cheresh. It must be Pikeach, V'nescharish. Why is it relevant to the Kasha on Rabbah? There's a Kasha on Rabbah, regardless. The Kasha is from the Mishnah itself. The Mishnah says, Yiskayim b'chesamav, if you can't say b'fon nechtam, Yiskayim b'chesamav, bam, that's Shver on Rabbah. You can't have Kiyum Chasimas without knowing that it was written L'Shma. That's a Kasha on Rabbah. Why are we getting involved in the technicalities of figuring out what's the case of Eino Yochel Loymar? Why is it relevant to our sugya here? That's relevant to the Mishnah there in Daf Tes. We have to know what Pshat of the Mishnah is. Beautiful. So the Gemara discusses that in Daf Tes. But why is it relevant in Daf Dalet Amud Beis Daf Hey Amud Aleph over here when we're asking on Rabbah? That's the Rashba's kasha. Says the Tosfos Rosh. Tosfos Rosh asks the same kasha. Tosfos Rosh says the reason why we have to say v'havinen ba to figure out exactly what the case of Ve'eno Yochel Loimar is, because otherwise we have a very simple teretz for Rabbah. If we would have asked from the Mishnah alone, it wouldn't have been so shver on Rabbah. We could have found the teretz, a simple teretz. What's that? We would have said that the Mishnah is talking about an ilim. An ilim. What do you mean? An ilim can't say before nechtam either. You need kiyum chasimus, right? So what's ilim going to help you? The kasha on Rabbah is if you have kiyum, we're not going to know about lishma. So what's the Tzais Rosh is answering? That we could have said the Mishnah is talking about an ilim. But an ilim, again, he can't say before nechtam. And you would have needed kiyum chasimus. And kiyum chasimus wouldn't have told you anything about lishma. Wouldn't tell us anything about lishma. Says the Tzais Rosh, in the Marsha, and the Feimer Aleph in the top Taisvis is Mevarid Ba'arichus, the same teretz, that the Inyan Lishma, the Ilim could have written it on a piece of paper. If the Eino Yochel Loimar is dealing with an Ilim, we're discussing an Ilim in the Mishnah, so Baha HaDover Mischalik, by an Ilim, we can differentiate whether he is testifying on the Lishma, or he's testifying on the Ziyuf, whether the get is Mezuyuf or not. The Mishnah is telling us Yiskayim B'Chesamav because that's regarding the Ziyuf. We have to know whether the get is Mezuyuf or not, right? You need Kiyum. For that you need Edom. But with regards to Lishma, the Ilan could have written it on a piece of paper. So why can't the Kiyum happen on a piece of paper either? Because there's a halacha mepihem v'loy mepi ksavam. Whenever you need edus, edus can't write on a piece of paper whatever they're testifying on. They need to say it b'peh. So why le'inyin l'shma is there no problem with mepihem v'loy mepi ksavam? Because l'shma is not edus. The Marshal brings a raya for the Gemara in Daf Hey with Beis. The Gemara says that lamanda omar l'fishein b'kiyin l'shma. All you need is two people there present at the time you give it over. But if you learn that the reason why we say before nefra nechtam is because of v'she'ein edim mitzviyim l'kaimai, so the reason why saying before nefra nechtam is for kiyum purposes. There you need to give it over for gimel. You need a beis din, because you're testifying on the star. So there you need to give it over for gimel. So it's clear in the Gemara that there's a difference between the manda omar that requires before nechtam of v'she'ein b'kiyum l'shma, to the manda omar who requires before nechtam of v'she'ein edim mitzviyim l'kaimai. According to the Mandamar of Lishma, it's not a real Edus, and therefore you can give it over for Neshnayim, and therefore you could also write it al aksav. And the Mandamar of Vishenim to Lekaimoi, it's a real Edus, it's an Edus of Kiyam, so there you have to give it over for Negimel, and you also need to say it bepeh, because that has a real Edus. So again, so the Tzais Rosh answer is simple. He says like this: if the Gemara wouldn't have gotten involved in explaining the Mishnah's case of Eino Yochel Loimar, then it wouldn't have been a kasha on Rabbah. Why not? Because Yiskayim B'Chesamav is only with regards to the Kiyam. That's the Eino Yochel Loimar, with regards to the Kiyam. But with regards to Lishma, he could have written it on a piece of paper. So it wouldn't have been a kasha on Rabbah. Hey, how do I know whether it was written Lishma? Because with Lishma, with regards to Lishma, he could have written it in the Piyam V'Loi Piksav doesn't apply because it's not a real Edus.
The Rosh and Mishnah is still mashma with inter. In Yeshal Edim is kind of Chesman. Because the Rosh, it's not a teretz. He's still got a problem with the Shema. No, I've got a way around it. What he's kind of Chesman not going to help from the Shema.
You're not going to need that for Lishma. If we're dealing with an Ilim, you're not going to need that for Lishma. Lishma, I'll have a piece of paper. I'll write it on a piece of paper. And Yeshal Edim is kind of Chesamav. Now, how will I know whether it's Mezuyif or not? Yiskayim B'Chesamav, I'll have Kiyum. That's how you will learn the Mishnah. If we're dealing with an Ilim of the Mishnah, so we're going to read the Mishnah the following. We're going to say, Eino Yochel for Nechtam, with regards to Kiyum, to know whether it's Mezuyif or not. So there, in Yeshal Edim, Yiskayim B'Chesamav, you'll need real Edim to be Mekayim this get. But with regards to Lishma, that's not a problem. You'll have the Ilim write a piece of paper and give it to Beis Din, and there's no problem with the people that picks up because it's not a real Edus. That will be the teretz on Rabbah. So it's only when the Gemara continues and the Gemara asks, V'havinan ba. The Gemara asks, one second, what's the case of Eino Yochel Loimar? And the Gemara is moikim the Mishnah. The Gemara says the Mishnah has to be talking about a case of Pikech and Escharesh. So here, we come into a problem, we ask on Rabbi, if you're dealing with Bikech and Escharish, so a Cheresh can't even write it Biksav. It's not a Bardas. You can't trust whatever he's saying. Right? So here it becomes a Kasha on Rabbi. Only after the Gemara is making the Mishnah, in the case of Bikech and Escharish, does it become a Kasha on Rabbi? Hey, according to Rabbi, how will I know whether it was written Lishma? Kiyam doesn't give me the idea whether it was written Lishma or not. So again, the Rashba asks, let's recap before we go weiter. The Rashba asks a kasha. Why does the Gemara have to get involved in the technicalities of what the Ve'inu Yochel Leimer means? Without getting involved in what the case of Ve'inu Yochel Leimer is, it's still a kasha on Rabbah, because the Mishnah says Yiskai B'chasam, if Kiyam alone works. The woman can get married with Kiyam. How could Kiyam work? You don't know whether it was written Lishma. So the Rashba asks, why do we have to go any weiter? Why do we have to explain what Ve'inu Yochel Leimer means? Just the Mishnah alone is a kasha. Taisa Rosh answers that if you would have just said the Mishnah alone, it wouldn't have been Shver and Rabbah, because I would have said the Mishnah is dealing with an Elam. And the Elam has a roundabout way of how to tell us whether it was written Lishma. You could write it down. He's a Bardas. Right? And you could write it. What's the problem of Pinla Piksavam? It's not a real Eidos. Kiyum is a real Eidos. That's the Taisa Rosh status.
From that base, on the base, it seems that Lishma is a real Eidos.
Very good kasha. The answer is that Gemara's kasha was only before the Gemara answered Stam Safra the Deni Migma Gemiri, Rav Bekiyan.
Yeah, but what's the difference to Raisa Drabanan?
So the Gemara said like this.
Needs to be a real Eidos.
You're asking a very good kasha. The Gemara that base said, the Gemara asks, Eidach Nama B'Yisurin. The Gemara asks, what do you mean? You need Laboya Trey, you need to have a call Eidach Shabbatayra. The Gemara answers, Eidach Nama B'Yisurin. Right? The Gemara says, what do you mean? But it's Davar Shabbat it's a Chazik Yisura. Right? So it's not going to help you. And then B'Yisura is not Neman on these things. So the Gemara says, no, there's no problem of Davar Shabbat and Chazik Yisura anyways, because Stam Safar Deni Migmiri, it's Rav Bekiyan. Really, we don't need any Eidos here, B'chalal. It's only Rabbanon who da'atzrich. So now the Rabbanon were matzrich a new thing. Lishma. That's not, this tzrichusa that the Rabbanon said you need to testify, according to Rabbah, before the nechtem whether it's written Lishma or not, is only begeder eidach and bisur. It's not begeder that you need two edim here, like Kiyam. That's the way the Ritva explains your kasha. The Ritva asks from that Gemara, on the Gemara Daf Emet Beis, the Gemara says that you could give it b'fnei shnayim, because it's not a real edus. So the kasha is obvious. What do you mean? The Gemara Daf Beis Emet Beis had a whole discussion. According to Rabbah, Leboya Trey, it seems there is a real edus. So the Ritva answers that was only in the Havamina. But at the Maskona that Stam Savdin in Bekiyan, then it's only a tzrichusa that the Rabbanon were matzrich. Maybe the Baal will be ma'arer. That's not.
The word matzrich edus. The word edus Rabbanon. Edus Rabbanon, you still got boy.
Right. They weren't matzrich exactly.
The kind of then monastery.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what Ritva says. Okay. So it's clear from the Taisus Arash that an Elaim cannot give Eidos Biksav. An Elaim can't testify Biksav, right? Because the Taisus Arash said, I could have explained the Mishnah of Ve'inu Yochel Leimer b'fon nechtam in Yeshal Eidos Kaim B'chazav to mean we're dealing with an Elaim. That means, from Taisus Arash's Mavur, that an Elaim cannot be made Biksav. He can't testify on a star Biksav. Right? When it comes to Kiyum, when it comes to Agodas Eidos, an Elam can't be made Agodas Eidos Biksav. Why? Because there's a problem of Mepiyam V'loy Mepiksavim. So Agodas Eidos has to be Mepiyam. The Ran and the Ramban, the Ritva, they're all Chayluk. They say that the Mishnah could have been talking about an Elam as well. An Elam could be made Biksav. An Elam could be made Cholik. Taisus Rosh learns that an Elam can be made Biksav. If the Mishnah would have been talking about an Elam, you wouldn't need Kiyum Chasamas. The Ram, the Ramban, the Ritva, other Rishonim learn that an Elam could be made Biksav also. If you need Kiyum Chasimas, and you have an Elam that knows the signatures, you can ask the Elam to write. He can't speak. You can ask him to write that he recognizes those signatures, and he can make the ksav on the kiyum. It can be mekayim mit ksav. That's what they hold. And they bring a raya to that from the Gemara later on, the Ayin Aleph. The Gemara says that you could use an elaim to write that he recognizes a certain Baal that disappeared when it comes to Eguna by Edis Isha, and elaim could be made mitei aksav. Why Mishin Eguna kilu barabanan? Even though there's usually a problem with a piyam v'leim piksavam, says the Ran, I have a raya from Edis Isha to hear also that whenever there's a problem of Eguna, Mishin Eguna kilu barabanan, although there's a problem of piyam v'leim piksavam, we don't mind. We'll do away with the problem of piyam v'leim piksavam because of Mishin Eguna kilu barabanan. So again, we have basic machlokas Rishonim, whether elaim can testify mitei ksav. According to Taisus Rosh learns that an elaim cannot testify mitei ksav because Taisus Rosh says that the Mishnah could have been dealing with an elaim as well. Right? We would have been mitaretz the Mishnah according to Rabbah that it's discussing an elaim. And how would we read the Mishnah? That an elaim came and gave a get, and he's kaim b'chasama because he can't be mekayim himself. So mashma, that would imply that he can't write it down b'ksav. He can't be mekayim himself means he can't even write it down. Right? So that's before Taisus Rosh that an elaim cannot testify b'ksav. Mashenka, the Ramban, the Ritva learn that an elaim can testify b'ksav. They could testify b'ksav. And that's why, of course, the Mishnah couldn't be dealing with an elaim because the Mishnah said it's kaim b'chasamav. If it would have been an elaim, the elaim could have just written it down. Right? So according to the Ramban, the Ritva, the reason why the Mishnah can't. The reason why we couldn't say in the Gemara the Mishnah is discussing an elaim is because it wouldn't fit with the Mishnah. The Mishnah is kaim b'chasamav. According to the Ramban Ritva, an elaim could be mekayim. He just has to write it down on a piece of paper and give it to Beis Din. But according to the Taisus Rosh, right, the Taisus Rosh learns that the Mishnah could have been dealing with an elaim, right? So Vice says that an elaim can't write it down because it says in the Mishnah is kaim b'chasamav. Yes.
If the Mishnah could have been dealing with an elaim, then why doesn't the Gemara answer that?
Very good question. Okay, we'll get there in a second.
So, how would they answer the question of the Rashba?
Yeah.
Why does the Gemara carry on with the Havina Bar and Ravisa?
Excellent question. Question both ways, right. So first of all, the question of you, Avi, the question was that, you asked first, the question was that what's going to be the Rashba's teretz, why, the Kash of the Rashba's teretz, why don't we say that the Mishnah is dealing with, what was your question?
The question was if the Taisus Rosh, if elaim was a valid answer to the Gemara.
So why do we say, according to the Rosh, that elaim could have been pshat in the Mishnah, why do we say that's pshat?
Well, presumably he's not using the reason of the Maram and Tos because you just said it's a valid. If he then it's not valid in the Lashon. Because
right, so he says a different teretz. He says because if we would have said the Mishnah is dealing with an elaim, there would be no chiddush in the Mishnah. We're trying to find some chiddush in the Mishnah. And if we're just dealing with an elaim, it's so poshut that an elaim can't be made b'tech aksav, he's kaim b'chasamav, there's no chiddush. What's the Mishnah's chiddush, b'chlal?
If that's the case, then the question comes back. Because then the Mishnah couldn't be dealing with an elaim.
The Mishnah could be dealing with an elaim, but we don't want to be making the Mishnah with an elaim because otherwise what's the chiddush?
Exactly. So therefore your original question comes back of the Rashi. Because you haven't answered the question. Because if you... I hear
what you're saying. No, but that's exactly what the Gemara is trying to explain. What's the chiddush of the Mishnah? In other words, the Gemara is going continuing. Before the Gemara is Vavinan Ba, right, I would have said the Mishnah is dealing with an elaim. According to the Rosh, the Mishnah could be dealing with an elaim. It says, now what's the case? I would have said it's an elaim, and it wouldn't be Shver and Rabbah. I would have said it's an elaim. He could write the Shema, but he can't be Mekayim to get. So now the Gemara's Vavinan Ba is, but then what would be the Chiddush of the Mishnah? Vavinan Ba, so must be we're dealing with Pekech and Escharish, not an elaim. So once we're dealing with Pekech and Escharish, then now it becomes Shver and Rabbah. Okay, right,
so it's Nechal in the Vavinan Ba.
Right. What was your question again? Your question was the other way. Your question was that according to the Rashba,
how would the Rambam Ritva
answer the Rashba's kasha? That why do you have to get involved b'chlal and b'havinun ba? The Rashba himself has arichas on that. I forgot right now what he says, but he does have arichas in answering the kasha a different way. Not okay.
Not just because from that which we said in the Rosh, we just said that Nichla within the Havinan Ba is this chiddush that it could only be referring to that. They could say that it's not that. In which case, the original assumption which is made in the Rosh, this Rosh isn't true. As in, I just asked you if it's the case that if it's the case that really there isn't a reason that you couldn't say it in because of the reason because there's no chiddush, right? Then the question comes back to the Rashba. So couldn't the Rashba and the others answer that disagree with what you just answered to me and say that really that it's not that's not enough. That's not can't be nichal that, and therefore there isn't any other alternative.
Is that what he's saying? We'll talk after.
That's what I can say about it.
So we have Machlokes Rishonim. Again, so we have Machlokes Rishonim whether an Elaim could be made Miteich Aksav whenever he has to testify, he has to give Eidus, could be made Miteich Aksav on that Eidus or not. According to Taisa Rosh, an Elaim cannot be Mekayim Chasimus Miteich Aksav because that's Eidus, and Elaim cannot give Eidus Miteich Aksav. And according to the other Rishonim, the Ramban, the Ritzvah, he could. Okay, so Machlokes Rishonim. How do we paskin? Comes to the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, and he says that we paskin l'chumra, that an Elaim cannot be made mitech eksav b'fon nechta on kiyum. When it comes to kiyum, he has to give Agodas Eidah. Elaim cannot, like Taisa Rosh and Taisa. The problem with the halacha that's paskin the Shulchan Aruch that an Elaim cannot be made mitech eksav, Beis Shmuel asks a Baum Kasha, because the Ramah brings a Ravash elsewhere that kiyum shtaris, since it's only a derabanan, right? We saw in Tav Gimel that really no shtar needs kiyum because it's kamisha nechkara idus in bebezdin. So because it's only a derabanan, we're mekel and we can be mekayim miteich aksav. We can mekayim chasimus miteich aksav. We allow you to do kiyum miteich aksav. So the kasha is, for the Beis Shmuel, so how can we paskin that an elaim can't be made miteich aksav? Why not? It's kiyum shtaras. What's before nechtam? It's kiyum, right? If it's l'shma, then it's not a Agodas Eidah said what we said. And if it's like Rava, if you shein edim tzul it's kiyum. This is a steer in the Ramah, and both times the Ramah quotes a Rivash. So it's a steer. The Beis Shmuel asks a steer in the Ramah that one time the Ramah says, and that's the halacha by kiyum shtaras. Kiyum shtaras doesn't need the PM. You can do even the piksavim, and by get. We paskin that an Elaim cannot say b'fon nechta mitech aksav. Why not? It's kiyum shtaras. So the Beis Shmuel answers because an Elaim is different because he can't say it. It's only when you have the potential to say it, we allow you to write it down. There's no problem at piksavam when you have the ability to say it in the PM. But if you can't say it b'chlal b'peh, so there an Elaim who can't say it, we're not going to allow you to write it down the Agodas Eidah. So it sounds like for the Beis Shmuel that an Elaim has a psul haguf. He's pasul Eidos because he can't say b'piyam. Again, what would be the chiluk? Again, the Beis Shmuel says the chiluk is because over here, since he could say it b'peh, so therefore we'll allow him to write it down. But by Elaim, since he can't say it b'peh, if he can't say it b'peh, we're not going to allow him to write it down. Why not? Unless you say the Beis Shmuel holds that if you can't say it b'peh, there's some sort of psul with his Eidos, and since there's some sort of psul with his Eidos, the piksavim doesn't work.
And the Pekach, that works for him to have it written down. But nicely, you can't.
No, because you can't. Also, you have the same story. You can't say it. Inherently, if you can't say it, it's not a bardas. You can't say it. The Beis Shmuel is saying any time a person can't say it b'peh, you can't write it down. Pekech when it's charish, if he's a cherish, for sure, you can't even write it. I'm saying he's not a bardas. He's a cherish.
But you're accepting that if he would, what's it called? Sorry. On the notion, if he does it exactly the same time as giving you with the get, he becomes he's discouraged.
Right.
Right, we accept the Nesina.
Right.
If we accept the Nesina,
the Nesina happened already, but now we need kiyum. Now we need
kiyum. You wouldn't accept his writing, even in that case. When you accepted his,
he didn't write anything. He gave her the get, and now he has to write before nechtam just to.
And he's allowed to in that case.
No, why is he allowed to? He's not allowed to. He's sky b'chasamav. In that case, he also needs. They need kiyum. In yeshal avedim, they need regular edim. In that case, you're also not allowed to. Yeah, that's for sure. That's the Mishnah. So you're not allowed to. If you can't say it in the PM, if you can't say it in the PM, that's Beis Shmuel's stars. If you can't say that, so what's the chiluk? If the piksavim works, what's the difference if I can say it actually or not?
You're not a bar Eidos.
What? You're not a bar Eidos. So you have to say it because you can't say it b'piv. So there's something wrong. You're not a bar Eidos. There's some sort of psul aguf with this person, and therefore it wouldn't work even if he writes it down.
We're not makbid out for the nechta. That's not a problem. We're not makbid out. Since you can't write it, you can't. Since you can't say it, doesn't work on Shtar.
But it seems like we are. Because here the Ramah paskins that if you can't, by Elam, the Elam can't write down.
It's not Barak of the Satan.
What does that mean?
If you can't say it, then you're not in the Parashat Satan. You're like
What's some sort of Isha Karev? Okay. Okay, so that's what you have to say. L'chayru, what the Shmuel means is because since you can't say it, you're one of the Psula Eidos, and therefore the Ksavim won't work either. Okay, that's what you have to say. L'chayru, the Shmuel's chilik. But the problem is, it's not so simple. Is an Elaim Pasul L'Eidos? Is it a Psula Guf by an Elaim? When it comes to testifying, an Elam giving testifying, a Goddess Eidos, Ksav, is he Pasul L'Eidos?
They would say that we're Tanina Elam.
What?
We're Tanina Psach Pichal Elam, like more in...
Psach Pichal Elam, that's when the Elam is a Baldover. That's when the Elam is a Baldover. Baldover is an Elam, he can't say whatever he wants to tiny, we tiny, but why is
so
it?
I'm saying if he's a Baldover, then that shows that he's... If he can be Baldover, shows he's a Bardah.
No, he's definitely about Bardas. An Elam is definitely Bardas. The question is does he have some sort of psul le'inyan eidos? When it comes to being made something, is he possible eidos?
So we're makel with that Gemara 9 on us, we're makel.
Mishemigula kilo barabanan, we should be makel.
We pass them that way?
We don't pass it that way. No, that's the Rishonim Zeraya, but we don't pass it that way. We say there's a chilik between eidos Isha and get.
There is a place where we do believe in it.
Yeah, according to those Rishonim, yeah, that's where the Raya is from. So you're saying it can't be a psul agov.
So it can't be according to the
Can be.
Rishonim, can't be.
Good point. Unless we say that they were makel even by psula eidos because of a guna. The very same svara. It's a very big kula, yeah. But the people like Pixel was also a big kula. They bought their rices. I'm saying, unless you say that. But anyways, again, so the Shmuel is saying that the chilik between regular kiyim shtaris, right? A person, Adam want to write the kiyim. If they could say it b'peh, then it's not a problem to write it because they're not psula eidos. But if they're an Elaim and they're mamish psula eidos, then they can't write it down either. And that's the case of an Elaim b'befon nechtam. Wow, it's so late. Okay, we have to. There's a lot to say over here. The emes is whether an Elaim is a psula eidos or not. The Ktsois has a tremendous chiddush. It's not so poshut. There's a shach. It's not so poshut where an Elam is psula eidos. I can't get involved in the protem if I want to finish the year. But it's not so poshut that Elam is psula eidos. The Ktsois is mechadish that an Elam is psula eidos. He says, just like in Loy Ra, the Gemara darshans that a suma is psula eidos, right? Pratla suma. A suma has to be aid has to be someone who's a bar re'iyah, someone who could see. It says in Loy Ra, the darshan. So too it says in Lo Yagid. So the Ktsois comes up with a new chiddush that it's not a din of Mepiyam v'loy Mepiksavim. It's not a din of Mepiyam v'loy It's because of Lo Yagid. It's pratla Elaim. So, but the problem is it doesn't answer our kasha because even if you'll say that it's a psul haguf, right? For some reason it's a psul haguf, and that's why an Elaim can't be Mekayim Shtaris B'Ksav because he's posel Eidus because it's a psul haguf, right? Other people who could potentially speak, they could write B'Ksav because they're not posel Eidus, but an Elaim who can't speak even if he wanted to, he has a psul haguf of Lo Yagid pratla Elaim and he can't write it down B'Ksav. Okay, that would answer the stira between Kim Shtaris, where you see Kim Shtaris works B'Ksav, and Kim Shtaris of an Elam doesn't work, because an Elam is posel Eidus. That would answer that stira. But the problem is that it wouldn't answer the Ramah by a get, because by a get the Ramah says that an Elam can't write before a nechta. So, what are you going to tell me? You're going to say the reason why I can't write before a nechta, although it's Kiyam, and Kiyam you could write, is because he's posel Eidus. But by before a nechta, we're machsher. Mishemiguna, we're machsher even psula Eidus. Even Isha or a Karuv could bring a get and say before a nechta, Mishemiguna kilo barabanan, even by psula Eidus. So the problem is that if they're machsher Mishemiguna, even psula Eidus, excuse me, so why aren't we machsher and Elaim Biksav when he writes before a nechta? What are you telling me? It's Bapiyim v'layim Piksavam. But by Kiyam, there's no problem. People like some by Kiyam Shtaris, Tzonei D'Rabbanan. Every Kiyam Shtaris works B'Ksav also. What are you telling me? Problem of Emlo Yagid Pratla Elam because it's possible Eidus, but we're dealing with an Isha. I get before nechtam that even an Isha and Karev are allowed to say before nechtam Mekayim because B'Shemeguna Kilo Barabanan. So again, what would be the pshat in the Ramah when the Ramah passes La Halacha that an Elam can't write before nechtam Emonavshach? The problem can't be Mepiyam V'loy Mepiksavam because by Kiyam Shtaris you are allowed to write it down. And the problem can't be a psula guf, that he's possible Eidus because of imlo yaget prat le'ilein, because by get, we're mater psula Eidus, is so what would be the problem? Why would the Ramah say that you can't write down, a ilu can't write down before the nechtam? What's the problem? Okay, so I want to mention a quick Beis Meir. It's late. Beis Meir has a whole new pshat on why Kiyum Shtaros B'Ksav works. Until now we understood that Kiyum Shtaros B'Ksav works because there were mekel in the Mepi and V'loi Mepi Ksav. Since it's only a din d'Rabbanan, the entire Kiyum is only a din d'Rabbanan. I mean, at Torah it's K'mishin Echka Yidus and Bebezdin. So the whole Kiyum that's Nitzrach by Shtaros is only because the Rabbanan were Matzrach it. So we understood that because it's only the Rabbanan, they were mekel by a dover shel the Rabbanan. They were mekel and they weren't matzach mepihem mamish, and they allowed even mepi ksavam. Beis Meir says that's not the pshat. He brings the Ravash a Simon Pei Beis. He says it's almost mefurish in the Ravash. The pshat is a huge chiddush, but that's what he says. He says the pshat is that when we allow Edom to be mekayim a star, the chasimus of a star, Biksav, it's not because we want to make a mepian v'olay mepiksav. It's because that itself gets a din star. The Ragodas Eidus Biksav gets a Torah star. How so? What do you mean a Torah star? There's no das in the sky. Every star needs a das in the sky. You can't make a star, right? The star doesn't become a star just because they want it to be a star. Then every Eidus of Kiddush HaChodesh, right? They want to send in a ksav to Bezdin. So they say, oh, listen, we'll write a star, and all of a sudden that'll take care of the problem of people that pick Sovim. It doesn't work that way. A star could only be